Hello everyone and welcome back for some more speculation for the upcoming DLC for Warhammer 3. And I already did one of these for the greenskins, so let's take a look at Khorne today. But there's still lots of room for lots of things, because we pretty much only know about the lords and heroes so far. So let's take a look at things that I want to see and things that I think we're probably gonna see. And considering that there isn't that many things that Khorne is actually missing from what I know and from what I can find really. And I'm not a lore and tabletop expert, so I can definitely be missing some stuff, but there are definitely some grasping at straws happening right here. But considering that all factions got about 5 units in Thrones of Decay, not counting heroes and lords, there's definitely some rooms for wild cards to come in this DLC. But this is just for fun and kind of an opinion piece, so let's start with something that I can pretty much guarantee will be in this DLC. And that is of course the Khorne Gores. Considering the 2 previous monogods got their marked Beastmen Gores, I think it's pretty safe to say that Khorne Gores are a done deal already. Especially since Khorne is the infantry faction, or at least the melee faction, since they don't really have any shooting, and no, thrown axes and skulls fired at max speed does not count. It's just headbutting or chopping from very far away. So I think the Khorne Gores will be dual axe infantry, since that's pretty much the iconic weapon loadout for Khorne, and they'll probably have frenzy and all that fun stuff. Probably some other ability that makes them do more damage and or attack the more they fight. But what I'm hoping for is that they have some kind of ability that gives them more damage and attack the more health they're missing or the more damage they've taken. Because there's already a bunch of units that gets better the longer they fight, but they're gonna be some kind of berserker unit anyway, probably. So a unit that just gets angrier and deadlier the more damage they take, I think is very cool for a Khorne unit. Just like the immortal words of someone in one of the Rocky movies, he's not getting killed, he's getting mad. And looking at all the units that could be possible for Khorne, I really start to appreciate the issue with designing unique units for Khorne, because there's only so many melee infantry units you can make before you run out of design space. So next we got more infantry. Infantry for the infantry god, I guess. Because next I would like Skull Reapers, and they are elite fanatical Khorne zealots, and are among the deadliest human Khorne warriors. And they are completely mad, there is no order in the ranks, they all fight completely individually from each other, and they don't really care when one of their own dies, because only the strongest will live. So I'm thinking, they sound pretty unbreakable, or something like unbreakable at the very least. And I think these guys could also definitely get a similar buff that I suggested for the Khorne Gores to just get deadlier the more of them die, because it works even better for these guys. Each one who falls in battle will just increase the average strength of them. And since there are already a bunch of super aggressive infantry units on Khorne's roster, what I think would be pretty cool is if they get some kind of aspiring champions treatment, as in there are pretty few models of them, but they are individually really strong. They should definitely be much squishier than aspiring champions though, probably low melee defense but really high offensive stats. And they are known to wear like half plates that kinda only covers their lower torso. So lower armor than Chaos Warriors but definitely not unarmored. So kind of a medium armor unit I suppose. And then there is the Wrathmongers, which are the elite of the Skull Reapers. So say if Skull Reapers are a tier 3-ish unit, then Wrathmongers are probably more like 4 or 5. And maybe even a lower number of units, but better stats of course. And that's pretty much all there is to them. They should probably have some ability that Skull Reapers don't have, like give them fear or terror or something. And if we get these guys, I really hope they get the weapons they have on the tabletop, because they got these really chunky Warhammer heads at the ends of chains as kind of a heavy flail, which looks really silly and impractical, but still kind of awesome in a silly Warhammer kind of way. So I really hope they just get these and just ham it up, make them look silly, because I love it when they do that. And I think that is definitely enough infantry for now, so let's move on to something chunkier. And first off is the Slaughterbrute, and apparently it has been confirmed. I had somehow missed that when I started writing this, so I'm just gonna pat myself on the back for predicting something that was already confirmed. Good job, me! But that's not gonna stop me from at least talking about it a little bit, because there's still speculation to be done about it. So first of all, it looks freaking badass, and I think Khorne really needs it, because I feel like Khorne is lacking some big chonkers, since the only huge single entity monster they have right now is the Bloodthirsters. Which, sure, is cool and all, But since Khorne is all-out offense all the time, they do really need another big beater. Besides, the Bloodthirster is an anti-large monster, and I really hope the Slaughterbrute is an anti-infantry powerhouse. That way they have big chunkers for every occasion, one for anti-infantry and one for anti-large. And usually the Slaughterbrute would be bound to a champion that would control it on the battlefield, and I think this could be made into a pretty cool mechanic, where if your lord dies, or maybe if just a character nearby dies, so it would actually trigger sometimes, since lord death isn't that common, the Slaughterbrute could rampage or lose control somehow, since there is nobody around controlling him. But maybe give him some better stats, since he's unleashed and just angry. Although people tend to not like mechanics where you lose control of your units, but since a character has to die, it shouldn't happen too often, and you can definitely play around it a bit more than normal rampage. And so far, I think these are all pretty likely, especially the one that's already been announced, but the next one is where we start getting into a little bit wishful thinking territory. So, speaking of big monsters, I think Khorne should have more monster than just Slaughterbrute and Bloodthirster. So I would also like the Bloodspawn, or also known as the Blood Beast or just Beast of Khorne, which is essentially a huge chaos spawn that can be pretty much in any form between pulsating mound of flesh with mouths and spikes to kinda humanoid looking. And usually we only get one huge SCM monster, since that seems to be the norm when it comes to DLC, but I hope they make an exception for Khorne, because Khorne deserves more big monsters. Although this one is pretty unlikely, since it doesn't seem to have an actual release tabletop model. There seems to have been one in the works, since I found some leaked parts to it, but other than that it seems to have only been mentioned in armor books, so it's pretty unlikely. But there also isn't a lot of units missing for Khorne, so they kinda have to take what they can. So mechanically, they should probably have some kind of debuffs to enemies like low leadership, because they sound like some kind of eldritch horror. Or at least something like that, to make them a bit more of a support monster, unlike the other two monsters they already have. And it should probably have Gore Greed or something similar, so it heals as things around it dies. And stat-wise, I would probably make it a pretty decent generalist, not as strong as the other two Khorne monsters, but still a good fighter. It is still a Khorne monster. So that's pretty much my list of units I want, and things I can even think of for Khorne. Did I miss anything obvious that you think should be in the DLC, and what do you want to see? But that's gonna be it for now, so thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, do the YouTube stuff for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!